Good afternoon to one and all. Thank you, folks, so very much for waiting and for being there and to make sure that you're plugged into our program for today. This is Viewpoint with yours truly. I'm here until the 1 o'clock hour, and that's when we turn over to the news. That is the news, local and national news, and we'll be able to find out what's happening if we don't already know. I want to say a special good morning and good afternoon to all our guests, those who are following us on the live stream. Special good afternoon to you. Now, we also like to let you know that to get to the live stream, you can simply type TV Carib in your Google browser. When the page comes up, you click on it, and when you get in, you would be able to watch this program if only you click on the icon that says Listen Live. That's when you see the program. Or you can go to Seymour Journal, that's CMOOREJOURNAL.com, SeymourJournal.com. When that page opens, you simply click on the banner that is right at the top. And as soon as you do, straight into TV Carib you go, and you'll be able to see the faces behind the conversation. Or you can listen to us on radio, which is customary for those of you who have no other means of watching or listening to this program. Thanks for being there, though. And to all our supporters and listeners, a very special good morning, good afternoon, rather, to all of you. I've invited former MP then, I may put it that way because he is more comfortable with that, I'm sure. But for us, once an MP, always an MP, I guess. MP George Pantophlet is going to be here with me to talk a little bit about what's happening in the international scene and the potential of these happenings around us that may affect us in one way or the other. We cannot forget the pandemic when we went through that and how everything was dried up. We must not forget that we have a very fragile, if I may use that very in front of fragile, we have a fragile economy, which is tourism. Anything can interrupt that, and with what has been happening in our neighbors, just a few days ago it was, I believe, there was some space interruption where no flights could have come in, neither flights leaving St.Maarten, all because of the danger poses by the potential war, or if I may use that word, between America and Venezuela. MP George Pantophlet, good afternoon to you. So thank you for coming in and for spending some time with me. Thank you for supporting the show as well. You always listen and give your comments, I guess, when it comes to where we're going. I said something some time ago. I want you to respond to that, and then you can, address those other issues that are pointing in front of us. I mentioned that it seems like we've had many changes of government, but everyone that goes in find themselves in a situation where, as much as they may have the ambition to do a lot, or to do things differently, they find out they are all cramped for room because there's no monies in the budget to make any change or to make any addition or to finance anything that might be socially necessary for the development of St.Maarten. And we will move them out, and the next one will come in, and then you see the same picture. Basically, they probably have in mind that they want to do things, but you can't. And then we look at a lot of things that are happening in MP, and it's almost like we are regressing rather than progressing. I say that too because as I was on my way here, I'm hearing the St.Maarten song being played again. And our Constitution strictly says, by enforcement, by the nature of the language, that a national anthem must be enacted. And we're not even worrying about that. Is it too much that we have to do, or what is the problem? How do you respond to not having funds in the budget to make things happen?
Well, first and foremost, good afternoon, Wendell, to you and, of course, the radio listeners. All the best of 2026. This is my first time on the program for this year. And I just want to say to the people of St.Maarten, we are going to be tested as always. But, most important thing is for us not to to be fearful, but to be faithful, and to know exactly whatever situation we are facing, we are always able to overcome, because, our Constitution talks about, us being a Christian nation and so on. So it's important that we don't just talk about it in words or just write it down, but in actuality, we live it. Because, I realize that in today's world, everybody's a Christian. That is so hard to be a Christian, So what I'm saying is we're going to be tested as time goes by as to really, really how strong our faith is where God is concerned. In regards to the issue of the government, Wendell, you hear the same thing over and over again. And I was in politics for many years, so I can tell you I'm yet to see a change. Why do I say change? We have to learn that you would not get anything done if you want to change things because you're the one that didn't start it. If you come into government and you find a particular portfolio, whatever it is, where things are working, then you go with it. But unfortunately, we find today that people want to come with their own things no matter what. And then what it does, it also regresses, and things that should be going ahead does not go ahead. So and it's something that I'm praying for, Wendell. Haven't seen it as yet, but I hope that once we get pressured while it's taking place, we are forced to work together. Because these are not days when they're really going to say, yes, Wendell came with this, I'm going to put it aside because it is Wendell. No, I'm going to say, what's in the best interest of St. Maarten? You want to ask me a question?
Yeah, well, one of the things that can really create the situation where we begin to work together is how we are affected by the outside activities that are happening in the world that may affect us. Again, I mentioned of our fragile tourism product. When that is not happening and none of us can do anything, it forces us to work together.
Well, we shouldn't come to that point. We should make sure to prepare ourselves from now. One of the things that I said years ago on this program, and I say it every time I come to this program, is that St. Maarten, even though we are small, we have to realize we are part of this planet. And whatever happens on the outside, especially in today's world with regards to the issue of technology, that we are more aware of what is happening in other parts of the world, it gives us a chance to prepare ourselves. Now, we all know what took place, I think, in January the 3rd when the president of Venezuela was taken out of his country. Now, somebody used the word kidnapping and so on, abduction. I leave it for them. Yeah. Okay, they're what you say, the ones who have the power to make certain statements, and then they can say whatever they want, but at the same time, statements have repercussions. But people look at it, and some might say, this does not affect us. We know what happened to us some time ago. I mean, earlier, I think it was a week before Sunday, where the entire, the region, the flights were, all registered U.S. flights were not flying. Because I think they were saying in their mind, that's what I suppose, I don't know if that is the fact, that maybe because of what they did by abducting or kidnapping or taking the president of Venezuela out of his country, sovereign, of course, country, that there would be a retaliation. I think maybe that's why they did. But of course, thank God, nothing happened. And order was restored. But at the same time, you and I don't have no idea what it costs, be it hotels, airlines, persons, because we do not know if everybody going to reimburse. Some folks had to stay in a hotel an extra night, an extra day or two, because flights were disrupted. So it shows us that decisions that are taken outside of, let's say, the kingdom or outside of St. Maarten has a potential to affect us. Now, I don't know what your idea might be or your thoughts on why the president of the U.S. did this. There are many different reasons. We hear different things. But in the midst of it all, Wendell, we also got to ensure that we protect ourselves. Because this thing with the dollar, we are pegged to the dollar. And I've said it this last 3 or 4 years ago while I was in Parliament when I had a meeting with the director then, Mr. Doornbusch. I said we should be very careful because the BRICS countries are coming up and so on, and this is what's going to happen. And he said it's going to take another 50 years before they defeat the dollar. I think it's right at the back door right now. But let me say this. There is a power struggle going on. There was a time when we lived in what you call a unipolar world, where one decided, which was the United States of America, they have the army, the technology, everything in order to dominate. Okay? But as time went by, the last 50 years or so, especially China, we saw China increasing. And I said it one time on this program, I was told in 1975 by the then chief security at Mullet Bay, he said that the U.S. is ignoring the Caribbean and the Chinese will move in. Now, 50 years now, we realize what is happening. Now, what is Mr. Trump doing right now? There's the BRICS countries who are working together, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and other countries want to be also added in order to get away from the dollar, because the dollar is the one that controls the world. You know about the petrodollar. Most of the oil that was bought and is being sold, you have to pay for it in US dollars. But the fact is now, because of the sanctions that were placed on Venezuela, this oil, let me use the word, was sent on tankers to either, I think, Russia and China. What did he do? He wanted to take control of the oil, and he can only do it in order to, by the way it was done, of course, in order to ensure that I have the oil. Because right now, I understood that China, the oil that China was getting from Venezuela, they're now getting it from Iran at the same price as they were when they were buying it from Venezuela. So what China did, China found another way around it. But the issue, getting back to the issue of the petrodollar, why I call it the petrodollar, if you're in control of the oil, it means that no matter what, if Wendell needs it, if George needs it, the U.S. control it, you have to pay for it in dollars. Russia and China, when they sold the oil to China, when Russia sold it to China, they sold it in, they paid rubles for it, and China accepted the rubles. And when China sold to Russia, Russia accepted the yuan, which is the Chinese currency. Now you might say, what does that have to do with us?
Yeah, exactly.
Right now, Wendell, I don't know if you know, there are some European countries, I believe the Netherlands is one of them, France also, that are telling the U.S., I want my gold back. I don't know if you heard about that. You know that?
No.
They're asking for their gold to return back to Europe. Why? Because the sea on issue. Don't forget, the dollar is not backed by the gold anymore. The U.S. didn't do that anymore. They changed that many years ago, I believe, under, I think, Roosevelt, one of those presidents. And, what's his name again? The cowboy president, I forget his name always.
Reagan.
They changed, they stopped using the U.S., the gold as a backup for the dollar. But right now, because of how things are going, and there's a potential of the dollar weakening, these countries are asking that their gold be returned. And right now, this is why I ask, Wendell, I asked during a meeting of parliaments from 4, 5, 6 years ago, I said, where is St.Maarten's gold? Where is St.Maarten's gold? And if I'm wrong, I can be corrected. At the time when we found out what the value was, it was worth something like 1.2 billion guilders with a B, not an M. That was the word then. Based on some research I'm doing, gold will be increasing. The price of gold will increase more and more because it's going to become the tenor or the standard for trade again. And that is why you see European countries, the Netherlands, I believe, France and Germany, are asking back for their gold. Now, I made a statement, and I don't ask people to agree with me, Wendell. That's not, I'm going to say what I believe I think is right. Whether you agree with me or not, that's not my problem. You understand what I'm saying? But I said we should find out, first and foremost, where is our goal? And based on the increase of the goal right now, what is the value of our goal? Because I've asked for debt cancellation. You don't hear nothing about it. So I'm saying, I want to exactly, well, you don't want to cancel the debt. I'm going to discuss it still, but what it is that actually the value of the gold is. Because if I can't get the debt canceled now, it's two things I said in the past. I'm going to keep paying for it, or one or two, I'll pay it off with my gold. And then I owe you nothing. Because it seems that people feel that when the Dutch loan us something, they're doing us a favor. It's not a favor. It is no favor. We know the interest rates that it says favorable to us. No, it is a means of tying us to them. Mm-hmm. But right now, Wendell, if you look at what is happening in the region where the President of the United States of America talk about also threatening Cuba and also Colombia, those countries, his thing is, I got to protect my hemisphere. Now, what is he doing? The Monroe Doctrine, I'm sure you heard about the Monroe Doctrine, where a meeting was held in the 1800s, where the then president told the colonial powers that they have no more rights at all to come in this side of the hemisphere to colonize anybody, that this section belongs to the U.S. That's what it's all about. And what he's doing right now, he's going back to that again, because why he realized that since Venezuela was trading more with Russia and China, they have more of a what you call a political relationship. In order to control those things, he's doing that, and also to protect the dollar. You see? So what I'm saying to us right now, you go to supermarkets, Wendell, and you and I know, because you do our shopping, the prices are fluctuating up and down like crazy. One time it's this price, then it's another price, and I want to blame the owners or the business people and so on, but at the same time, though, we have to be a bit realistic, because since those tariffs have been set, Wendell, the prices are going crazy because we are importing everything. Everything we are importing from outside. It means that once they get affected, we are going to get affected also. So getting back to the beginning discussion, right? Government, parliament, I read things, and the things are important, what they're saying. But what are you doing to mitigate in the event that, God forbid, because one thing with this president, when he sees he's going to do, I think he does it. He sees he's going to do it, he does it. So what are we putting in place in order to prevent ourselves? We can't stop it on the international plane, but locally, what are we doing as a panel, as a government? Stop the fighting. Stop the fighting, because you're not getting anywhere in that. And that is one of the concerns that I have about what's taking place.
Those are probably more connected to regional happenings, which can affect us locally. But there are so many little things that are manageable that we can do on the inside, in our circles, in our parliament, in our council of ministers, that we are not doing, that are affecting us. And I'm wondering who is going to reach to that place to decide we got to do something about it. One case in point, we realize that the Taxi Association in the papers today, they made a statement, and the headline says that they warn that the disastrous traffic crisis is going to cripple tourism sector. Again, when we look at how fragile the tourism sector is, if this is something that we can manage, or we should be able to manage, or at least find some type of vision to address it, how come we're not doing these little things? And when these are the big things that you're talking about on the outside that comes in and affect us, and we lose our tourism product, we square right back on our bum with nothing to sit on.
Wendell, I'm so glad you brought up that very challenging matter with the taxi drivers. When you go to the doctor, there are certain medications that you don't want to take, but you have to take them, because if you don't take them, you'll die. This is a matter that's been ongoing for many years. I am yet to see a season when we don't get complaints about traffic. Every year is the same thing. A suggestion I made years ago, I'm talking about almost, 15 years or so ago. Who wants to tell car dealers or wholesalers that they can't bring in any more vehicles? Are you going to tell them? Is the government going to tell them so? Because if I have a parking lot that can hold 15 cars, and I let 20 or 25 come, somebody can't park there. Where are they going to park? What I'm trying to say. St.Maarten is the size it is. As far as you and I know, it has not enlarged over the last whatever month or years. And if you think you allow vehicles to keep coming in, your island is the same size, population is growing, and think it wouldn't affect the traffic, then something is wrong with you. They don't want to understand that they have to sit down with the car dealers and find what is going on. Are these cars coming here? Are they staying here? Number one. Secondly, the vehicles. I said it once, I can say it again. If you want to drive a SUV, if you want to drive a Hummer, pay for the Hummer. But if you're driving a little Toyota, a small car, whatever it is, you can't pay the same price like what the person paying for Hummer. So the bigger your vehicle, the heavier, the more you pay. Now again, as I said, medicine, who wants to hear that? There might be folks who are complaining right now as I say this. But then how do you want me to solve the problem? Because the island is not getting any bigger. Cars are coming into the island. We're getting more tourists on the road during season. And then you want the traffic to be fixed. How is it going to be fixed, Wendell? That's one of the measures that I would use. But again, is it a nice pill to swallow? No. But then what are you going to do to solve it? Because the fact is, when the season starts like we have it right now, we're going to have these kind of traffic jams. Say whatever you want. What are you gonna do? Then fix your bus terminal. Then tell, get a bus terminal that has been talked about for the last 20 odd years or whatever, where I could say, well, if I want to go to Mullet Bay, I just go to the bus terminal because I know there's a bus running Cold Bay, Mullet Bay. I know there's a bus running regularly at the time that I needed to run, not the ad hoc bus that we have right now. Because you and I know there's
that's an issue with public transportation.
That's private persons providing public transportation. Okay, it's not public transportation. Because otherwise government will be in control of it. Government doesn't control it. This is private individuals who are running bus transportation.
Yeah,
it's
but
not public.
It is still public transportation.
Now you're saying public because the
that's why
public
the public uses it.
I know, but when we talk public and private, they refer to government owned and private owned also. So I'm saying control that then. But again, who wants that to be controlled? So as long as we don't want to swallow the pill, that we need in order to survive, then we'll have this. I would love somebody to say they have a good solution. And there was a time they talk about making a tunnel through the hills. I know you know that. Remember that discussion way back by, I believe, former Member of Parliament, Prime Minister, Mr. William Marlin, had come with that suggestion many years ago. Now, and that would be good. But eventually, again, when the cars start coming to the island now, and there's no control, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So I am saying that's how I would approach it. Other ideas, I'm sure there are others who have good ideas as how to do it. But whenever you have a season, you're going to have this.
Yeah, but okay, fine. Finding a solution to control it varies, and it left up to whatever the idea might be. But at the same time, government should be benefiting from with the amount of traffic that we have on the road. Okay, you make mention of if you're driving a Hummer versus someone who's driving a Corolla. And the person, because he's driving a Hummer, his commitment to government for being on the road is more than the person who's driving a Toyota. That's one way. We have millions of rentals on the road. I'm using the word million. That might be an overreach statement. But lots of rentals on the road. These people who are coming in and driving these rentals, who happens to be tourists, there's not even an exercise that they have to pay to give them permission to be on the road like they do in all the other countries. So that, in other words, everyone is doing basically the freedom to do what they want, and government receive nothing from it.
Let me say this, Wendell, and it might sound unpopular, but again, is it the issue of roads, the condition of the roads, or is it again the issue of how many people are using the road? Because I hear complaint about roads, which we know, roads need to be fixed here and there and so on. That can also delay traffic, especially when it rains, there are potholes and those things. But is it the problem? Because what you're saying, I know what you're talking about, the issue of government getting revenues from these things.
Well, if government were getting revenues, then it's justified. Yeah, and bring in all the cars because more money for government.
But then again, you have the gridlock of the vehicles on the road. But again, how do we know that government is not collecting the necessary fees and so on that has to be paid by the car renters? How do we know this?
How do we know?
Yes, whether they're collecting the right amount. Because one of the things, I got to be so careful. As far as I have known, and also people can call and correct, I don't mind, car rentals don't pay turnover tax. I don't know if you know that. Casinos don't pay turnover tax either. So that also is a source of revenue also. Why they're not paying it, I don't know. I wanted to see things change even in regards to the fee that we're paying, and they're still paying it again, Wendell. And people might say, George, you're saying the same thing. Yes, I'll say the same thing. As you and I sit here, the casino fees from 1989 have not been changed. That is 36 going 37 years ago. It is still 50,000 guilders a month, Wendell. So you're talking about 37 years, they're paying the same
government is satisfied with 50,000 guilders
for the last 37
a month
years.
from each casinos. And they can also be delinquent because they use the excuse that they have to pay staff and whatever. It's just the system has to change, that it works in the best interest of all.
I once, no, okay, put it this way. The system is what it is, but again, the matter of collecting equally and fairly. Mm-hmm. That is the issue, collecting equally and fairly, because the fact is, And we can go over that same old discussion again with the seniors. We know what bracket that's all about. Where they don't get away at all.
One
That's
thing
how
with
it
the
is.
seniors, their taxes, whatever little they have to pay, they're gonna grab it forthwith whenever they need it because they have control. But other revenues, like we're talking about, if they can have those persons who rent cars to drive on the public road, to issue them a license, a temporary license with a small fee attached, which goes to government. Hey, that would then it makes sense. Sure, fill up all the roads and let government come up with ideas to build, whether it's the snakes that they're building in these big countries, the road above roads or whatever, because you see the need. If we're not going to do it, then we're going to have to put a control mechanism in place, or else this complaint from the taxi association is going to hit us smack in the face.
Right now, as you and I are here sitting, China busy making what you call cars that can fly. Huh? About that.
Well, whatever.
So what I'm saying, that look like it's far future. But to get back to this serious matter again, what I said before, Wendell, I'll repeat myself. It has to do with the issue of how do you manage it. Because what I heard and what I read in the editorial, that is serious. Where persons are afraid to leave the ship because they don't know what time they're gonna get back. They might miss their ship and so on. So they stay on board. That's lost revenue also. Taxis stuck in traffic. I'm not gonna go point blank again or go to court because by the time I get back there, the gasoline I have to waste and so on. By the time I get the money collect, it's not worth it. So how do you regulate that?
All right, let me take a break quickly. I would want to know from you, though, as someone who spent time in the parliament, what exactly is the work of these elected officials when they are sitting in parliament to the point where they are addressing some of these very needs that is needed in this community. All right, let me take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll get right back to our conversation. Let's take a break. Okay, welcome back to our conversation with MP George Pantophlet. He's here with me for the full hour. And of course, MP Pantophlet, we've talked extensively. I wanted to give you an opportunity because you've made mention of coming here to address a lot of what's happening regionally and how it would affect us locally. But there's so much local things that we are not seeing done that can be done because it's within our competence to do it. And you mentioned a little bit earlier as well, and I want to use that as one of the yardstick where it seems like if there is something in place that benefits us and help to further us moving forward, and it's been initiated by somebody who may not be in government or may not be in power anymore, it's just pushed aside and everyone wants to put their name on whatever changes to be made is to be made. And I'm wondering if all of this is not helping us go backward rather than go forward.
I'm glad you said that, Wendell, because you remind me of a discussion I listened to, I believe was the President of Parliament, Sarah Scott Williams, and she was on the program, I believe, with Mr. LaBega last week, Friday, was it? And I don't want to misquote, but what I gathered from the discussion is the issue of the relationship between us and let's say, the kingdom, the Netherlands, as that has to be adjusted in the sense of, let me say it this way, the CFT determining how our finances should be, how we should budget our finances. Let me say this. There's a lot that cannot be done within the confines of the present structure where the CFT determines how your budget is put together. That, I think we should start there first. Let us have those discussions. Look, don't tell me that I can make $100,000 and I only can pay $100,000. It has to be income and expense have to be balanced. Well, Wendell, there's no way in the world where you budget this, it comes out as to what your expenses don't always compensate, or your income doesn't always compensate for your expenses, and sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. You are never going to get I budgeted 100 and I spend 80 and 90 and 100. It's always going to be either more or less. That's a reality. But our issue is we signed an agreement with the CFT where it states they have the authority to go through our budget. And if they see they don't agree with what we do with the budget or whatever figures or how we plan to generate them, they can make us adjust it according to them. And that, Wendell, I think is one of the key things as to we have to get it from that, because what you're doing, you're tying our hands. Right now, as you and I sit, France is in big trouble. You know, many governments fell in France already because they can't get their budget balanced. The UK, all of us bankrupt, you know. And France said something one time, the Minister of Finance, some years ago. He said that France is a big country. You can't tell them how to run their budget. Because they were about, I think, 3% higher than the average that is allowed, okay? But we're not allowed as a small island. We have to have it balanced. We're not allowed to say, well, hey, you know, maybe we're going to have a little more expense than what we have income, and then over the years we generate that in order to compensate. But they're telling us, no, this is how it has to be done. And as long as we are in that system, Wendell, we're not going to get anywhere. You can't have things changing. You want to tell me 10 years ago, my budget was 200,000, and then 10 years hence, it's still 200,000.
Yeah, well, listen. From what I know with the CFT, and I'm not going to dispute what you're saying, but I'm going to state this because this is facts. They usually have discrepancies with the income, which they say is not realistic. The expenditures, no. I mean, you're going to spend all you think you have to spend. But when it comes to the realistic amount coming in, often they have to revert back to what they collect last year to make those figures realistic. And there's a certain amount of discipline that you must admit that was instilled in every person who sit in the Ministry of Finance for them to get a budget ready on time and to make sure the figures are as realistic as can be, because we never used to have a balanced budget. We never used to have a budget in time. Everything was fictitious, and you can't run a country like that. So we have benefited somewhat for them being there, but as far as us maintaining that discipline, that is very much lacking. I don't know what you have to say about that.
Look, the issue of discipline, I agree with you 100%. And yes, the safety is telling you, you cannot put this as an income because you're not sure about X, Y, Z. You know what I'm saying? Let it remain that way and let the system run. It's exactly, if you are right, I am right. But you are telling me from now, I cannot put it as an income because you don't see it based on your structure and your rules and how you have things orchestrated. You don't see it happening. And I don't agree with that.
But that's one of the agreement we signed in order for us to get this new status.
Now let's go to that now. See the agreement that we signed, Wendell? Let me say this to you and the radio listeners. I will take it, tear it up, throw it in the garbage. But you see now, we are small St.Maarten, but the president of the USA breaking international laws, going into sovereign countries, abducting, kidnapping, borrowing the president, breaking the laws. Who's going to tell that president they can't do it? But you see, they're big. They're big and they're powerful, so they can do it. What I'm saying, Wendell, the present structure of the kingdom is no longer, it has never been, but it's no longer in our favor. It is not working. People say, yes, but what will you do without the Netherlands? When we were slaves, what did we do? How did we survive not getting anything? Did we survive? Yes, we did. My issue, Wendell, is, and I come back to international, is our region. When are we going to stop fighting each other in this region? On my way here, I met a good friend of mine I worked with for many years, and he said, what's wrong with us? And he pinched his skin, and he said, look, he said his black skin. He said, what's wrong with us, he says. And that's what I'm going to say. What is wrong with us? If we unite ourselves together, Wendell, there's nothing at all we can't accomplish. Right now, we know that Guyana has oil. And I'll tell you one thing, the US is watching that too. We know about Nigeria, where he already interfered there to a certain extent. What I'm saying, the present law that we have signed, it is time to get rid of it. It is not working in our favor. Yes, there's an amount of discipline, but at the same time, though, they're not allowing us to develop socially, nor economically. We see big plans in the books, and the Minister of Justice wants to do this, Minister of VSA wants to do that. When you go in, the program is very nice, the project is great, and you ask yourself, where are the funds going to come from? So why is it I'm going to follow rules and regulations that I realize not working? Why can't I go into a deficit?
So what should we do?
As I'm saying, we should first and foremost see what is working for us. What is it that St. Maarten knows it can do? And first and foremost, and let me say first and foremost, secondly, I always say this. It might sound cliche, but governments don't really control the economy of the country, you know. It's the private sector that controls it. The private sector controls it. And you use it our big business. Here we have big business too. They control it.
Okay.
You understand? Sit down with them. Because at the same time though, even though they control it, you are still government. You could still make the laws and regulations and so on. You say, look, this is what's going on and this is what I want to see take place. And you discuss with them because you need them in order to build a country. And if they're on your side, then for sure you can push forward. Something that I don't like to hear, and maybe bankers who are listening, it gets under my skin when I hear that banks are sitting on millions and millions. But people can't borrow because why? My little income that I make in there, you know, I can't afford to borrow to pay back. So why don't you cut back on those rules then? Why don't you soften the rules in order for me to get access to the funds then? But at the same time, you're sitting on these funds, but it is not circulated in the economy because it is in one place. So I'm saying, it doesn't make sense. I had a meeting. I went to the meeting. That
You think it's only bank and the private sector sitting on a lot of money?
Let me put it this way.
Government-owned companies too. Some of them are sitting on lots of money.
Well, I can't. There was a time when I would have an idea. Now I really don't know because I've since the COVID and hurricane, a lot of things happening. I don't know their financial situation right now. But my thing is, we must have access to these things. St. Maarten, you know, it's everybody that comes there that I speak to, Randall, they always say, "Well, this place, you know what I mean? This place is a gold mine." That's what they're calling St. Maarten. You know, people who come, they say St. Maarten is a gold mine. And I'm saying, how come we can't see the gold then?
So why are they arriving at such a conclusion that St. Maarten is a gold mine?
Because there's potential. They see potential.
Not just potential, they see the economic activity.
Exactly, that's one.
But what do government get from that?
Again, it goes back to how much is government involved in the economics of what is taking place in business. Government, look, the President of the United States of America that took over Venezuela, let me put it that way, who did he talk to? The business people, the oil, those who have Chevron and Exxon and so on, because he wants to control the oil in Venezuela. I mean, that's their thing to do. But I'm saying, to get back to what he said, let us check, because business are the ones who control things here and there. And the issue of how they're doing it and how government is not taking a strong, making a serious effort in order to ensure that they get also involved in the funding of the monies that are on this island, because there's money here. There is money in St. Maarten, Wendell. Because if I will say this, businesses, and I don't want to seem as if I'm attacking the casinos, but I know the open ones sometime here again, down Colby side or whatever, you know, I'm saying, if things are bad, you open casinos, more casinos, for what's going on here? What is it that you see in a casino that you can generate funds? Now, I don't want to go in another area where, you know, where they have to have control and so on. But what I'm saying, Wendell, is that as long as government, St. Maarten, Parliament, don't sit down and say, wait a minute, guys, we are fighting each other. I want to be in power, you want to be in power. I want this, you want that. But what is in the interest of the people of St. Maarten?
Do you think that is happening in Parliament?
Oh, of course. Look, you see,
of course is what? Yes or no? Of course,
yes. Wendell, you will always find individuals anywhere in the world, St. Maarten, Curaçao, whatever, that wants to have that particular power and control. You'll all have that. The issue is, how do the majority able to work together and show that whatever he or she wants to do has to align itself with what is in the interest of St. Maarten? Because one person, you know, in Parliament, you have 15. Any kind of vote, one can make the difference, 8 for or 8 against. So how do you get that individual or those individuals to understand this is no time for us to be fighting to throw down government? I heard to say government might fall. I hope not. Because who's it going to benefit? Not you and I for sure. Neither the people of St. Maarten. I'm saying you are there now. There are bigger fish to fry. Sit together, discuss what you want to do for this island, and ensure that as time goes by, that people of St. Maarten see, because right now, people are so discouraged, Wendell, and disappointed. And I when they call on your program, I listen to it, and they call, they criticize, sometimes the same complaints that I'm saying, but why hasn't this not been addressed? There are things that are simple that can be addressed immediately, and they're not addressed. So what is your agenda, government? What is your agenda, parliament? Where are the people as it comes to the agenda for St. Maarten that will benefit the people of St. Maarten? That's the issue that I have right now.
All right. I hate to say this, but the truth is everybody seems to be doing the same thing when we get into power. The constant struggle that you're talking about that may happen in Parliament doesn't see people working together in the best interest of what is good for St. Maarten. So that constant riff all the time, if it has to continue like that, it means that we're not going to get any place, because no one is going to reach to a place where they say, you know what, we actually have to work together, unless there is an outside force of whatever kind. Maybe it might be a tragedy or something that really affect things, so that we all feel the pinch and know what it's like for us to work together.
You said outside force. The people is the government, Wendell. And there were years ago I sat down in this same office here, on this program, with some youths. I believe, I can't remember, I think it's Oliver, she was in charge of some youths back in the day. I don't remember during that period of time. And they asked me, yes, but how can we do this? And what is government going to do? And I said, no, I said, you are the government. The people are the government. They're calling it in the program. That is not enough. You got to form groups, form organizations, and approach the government as a team. I could call in 1,000 times, say whatever complaints as much as I want. You can call in, two people can call in, but if the government hears, it's a group of 120 people there in this area, they're talking about this issue, they want to get it solved, they're going to listen, because when election time comes, that's votes. But as long as you, one voice here, one voice over there, crying in the wilderness, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to form groups and make sure you're serious and approach the government as a group, not as an individual, because you'll never get anything done that way.
So you're saying people should just agree with what's going on, and don't even...
You understand what I said? I said form a group. Because, as I said, people calling in here all the time, and I'm hearing the same thing, but I don't see nothing being solved regarding the matter which they are complaining about. But if they get a team behind them, a group of people behind them, then government, parliament is forced to listen, because, as I said, during election time, you're not talking about just George or whatever. You're talking about a whole team behind of him or her, and then you will listen. Because they listen to the masses, not just one voice.
They listen to one voice too, because one voice represents a certain percentage of people who think the same way.
Yes, but they're speaking for the group. But when it comes to physical, it's only one person they're hearing, they're seeing, and that's why I say the difference comes in.
In your view, are we moving forward, or are we stagnant, or are we regressing?
It is difficult to say moving forward, stagnant, or whatever. I believe that government is in parliament. We are caught in a vicious cycle where it will take government, parliament as individuals to understand that you can't keep doing the same thing, and expect a different result. You know what I mean? It's madness. You cannot be doing the same thing and expect different results. Somebody has to give in. Somebody has to say, wait a minute, George's opposition, but his ideas that he have for St. Maarten are good. Let us deal with it. Let us work with that. But don't just criticize because it is not your idea. And I think if we can get to that point where maturity prevails, then we'll see St. Maarten becoming the island that it has to be. Again, look at us right now. As tough as things are, the streets, the traffic is, as the taxis complaining, there's traffic all over the place, because why? We have more persons, more tourists on the island, because we are in the tourist season. But the issue is now how to benefit from this. And that situation, I said, I will not sit here and say it is easy. But again, I will say this, the pill sometimes might be bitter. But for our own survival, we have to swallow it.
In your view, Can we do anything right now to address this issue concerning the traffic and any well, right now the traffic they say is going to cause problem for the tourism product. Well, if you were in Parliament, what would you advise?
Let me say this. I would even say to advise. I believe there are two ministers that have been should be directly involved in this. Is the Minister of Economic Affairs, Ms. St.Maarten, the Minister of Justice, of course, and the one with regards to public works. They should sit down and see how they can address it together. Again, it is. I keep saying it's not a one-man show. It is a collective. It is all of them together have to learn to sit down together and see how they can collectively address it. I know a letter was sent or mention was made of the Minister of Economic Affairs, but I'm saying no, it is three of those that I mentioned should be main ones that should address this matter as soon as possible.
So, but you're agreeing that they can't turn their back on this now at this stage because this is.
I don't believe they're turning their back on it.
They can't afford to.
I believe that they're having a difficulty dealing with it.
Okay. All right. I got to leave it there, though. I want to thank all of you for watching and for listening and for being with us today on Viewpoint. I'll be here again tomorrow at 12. An invitation is extended for you to join us then. I want to thank you, Mr. Pantophlet, for joining me on Viewpoint for today.
Thank you for having me, Wendell, and those that are listening in, thank you very much for tuning in.
All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. Thank you once again, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.